Hey, what's up, guys? If you're watching this, you are strapped in for round 2 of our teleconference classroom. I have a cat. If you see his tail right there, I'm trying to have him settle. He may cause an issue. My boys are also inside because it's raining. They're glued to their Xboxes. We might be good. Just letting you know what could happen. All right. So what you're meant to do today, prior to seeing my visage, oh, there he goes. Hey, man. Is vocab review. Hopefully you knock that out. We're gonna have a quiz soon. You have an explication sample paragraph. You're supposed to turn that in already on your own. This is someone else's. It's anonymized, all that good stuff. We need to be respectful. Here's the deal. Mostly what I want to do over the next couple classes is really spend time in class talking about, he's gonna knock this over, is talking about what the paper is, because I know some of you are still confused. And how we can make whatever you have better. Now, of course, if you want to talk about your stuff, I don't usually do that in class, like, because it's not anonymous, right? But we can talk about your stuff outside of class or whatever. Email, like, there's all kinds of options there. But anyway, I want to remind you guys, this is how I was trained. And I know it may seem counterintuitive at first, but my rationale is this. By looking at someone else's work, you actually train your editorial eye. The problem that you guys will run into time and again when reviewing your own stuff is you miss all the logical gaps. You miss the problems. You might even miss grammatical problems because you know, for the most part, what you're trying to say, and you'll just kind of, your brain will put it in there even when it's not there. And if you don't read too carefully, all these other things, you skip over that stuff. You just don't see it. So what we do is we look at someone else's work, and you can have that editorial eye because you're not familiar with it. You don't know what they're trying to say, right? And you're able to critique it in a much stronger way, right? And I mean this. I mean, I'm proof of it. It happened for me and all the students I went to school with. If you do this enough, it's like going to the gym. Eventually, you build that muscle up to the point where you can bring it to your own work, and all of a sudden, you'll be surprised sometimes at like the things you'll see. So that's the goal. Here's how we're going to do it. Number 1, again, you have the English Explication Intro Worksheet. I provided no directions because I cannot assume this would be a surprise. It's the first real workshop we've done in a little bit, but they're pretty straightforward. Here's what I want you to do. In just a second, I'm going to say pause, and the kind sub will pause for us, help us out. You're going to read over this, and you don't unpause yet, okay? You're going to read over this, take a minute with it, get some notes down. Same as always, what are we trying to do in this paper to the best of your knowledge? Are we missing anything? Could we buttress any points they're making? Bolster is the word I wanted. I'm sorry, I'm a little fuzzy. Make bigger, okay? Anyway, could we improve this thing at all in your opinion? How? I want not just ideas, but specific critiques, right? This is the kind of work you want to be trying to start doing with your own stuff. So, oh, and the last thing, after you read it, take some notes, the sub, if you guys cannot be super crazy, will select one volunteer to lead class discussion. All that means is they're kind of taking my job a little bit. They're going to call on people, so it's not super crazy. I'm kind of hoping you guys can navigate that. I'm super interested to find out if you can. But one person will pick people who raise their hands. We're not going to force anybody to go, but I'm hoping that'll be a little easier for you guys to chime in. We'll see. So real quick, read over it. What do you think is off, could be improved, whatever. And then I want you to talk about it before you unpause this video. I want you guys to hash it out with each other, right? And then the sub will come back, she'll unpause this, and I'll give you my spiel. All right, anyway, go ahead and pause it. I'm just gonna hold that. I realized just now if I held that too long, that could be confusing. I'm an idiot. So, the intro worksheet. To remind you, this particular assignment is, in my view, different from anything, at the very least, that I've asked you to do. We're interested in literary analysis, we're interested in argument, and we've been working on that all semester. If you have me in 9th grade, I tried to, baby step you into it here and there. This paper, it's not like there's no analysis, but it's not quite the same. So for instance, cut right to the quick, there's no thesis here, and there shouldn't be. You can, especially in the intro, talk about major themes, big ideas, tone, mood. They sort of get into that territory, more on that in a second. But yeah, to boil all that down, this paragraph should feel pretty different from any intro I've asked you to write previously. Explication is a really old form that people do with poems, and it kind of stems from, unfortunately, this idea that sometimes people struggle to understand poems. So there's this whole assignment. I'm wearing gloves. I have a fever. There's this whole assignment that's all about just what is happening in this poem, what are some concerns, like a little bit of analysis, and like that gets you through the thing. On to the nuts and bolts. Firstly, I'm going to start really bare bones here. I'll remind you guys, you have feedback from me in all your assignments. You also have rubrics, right? By the way, Turnitin tells me when you don't look at that stuff. I hate to get that out now, but some of you have never looked at my feedback, which stings a little bit. Regardless, if you only go look at the rubric, it's like a little Tetris looking guy. Google that if you don't know what it is. When you go into Turnitin, it looks like a Tetris piece. You click that, it'll say rubric. You can like expand it or something. And it's all the little blocks I clicked in the rubric to give you your grade, okay? And I typically add some points to it because the rubric is a little bit taciturn, okay? My point is, thinking about that rubric, because I feel like what you want to know is, how do I get a better grade? Number one, let's talk about formatting. That's exciting, right? This is not MLA format. It's pretty close. It's Times New Roman 12. A lot of the punctuation is solid, you know. They're missing a citation. And especially in a Dickinson poem, man, you gotta do better than that. That's a line number. That's the first line. You could argue them saying the poem begins with that line kind of works as a citation, but I'm going to tell you, when in doubt, go ahead and cite. So just a parentheses, one parentheses, because we name her in the sentence, so you don't have to do that again. Anyway, you want to get in the habit of doing that. There are some professors, and I was one a couple years back for a long time. There are some professors who are much older than me who consider lack of citation grounds for a plagiarism case. So some people take it super seriously. A lot of people are pretty chill about it, but I'm just advising you, get in the habit now. It takes 2 seconds. It sucks to go back and have to do it. So just do it while you're writing the thing. Oh, this quotation I'm gonna use, what line number is that? Remember I told you, if you're doing a longer poem, like Whitman or The Raven or any of that, Whitman's Song of Myself, right? Those are way too long. Normally you would still have to give line numbers. I'm not gonna ask you to do that. Instead, just give me like parentheses Whitman or parentheses Poe or whatever, okay? But anything shorter than those, go ahead and count the lines. It'll only take you a second. Maybe even write down every 5, that's the trick. Okay, long-winded explanation, but this needs to be double spaced. Legit, man, on a rubric, that and the lacking citation, and granted, this is not the entire paper, but you're probably losing like 2 points. And I know that doesn't seem big, but sometimes, man, 2 points can be the difference between, you know, an A or a B, C or a B, you get it. I'm just saying, it's such a dumb way to lose points, right? Take a second before you turn the thing in. Look over the MLA. If you're not sure about what that is, you can Google it. There are such things as MLA templates, by the way. I want to say Word even has it in there, at least it used to, but you can Google that as well. It's pretty easy to find. It'll take you like 5 seconds. Sorry. I do want you guys to attempt a Works Cited for this, and we will talk about that when I get back, because the idea of making a video for Works Cited sounds like torture I can't take right now, so we'll just do that when I get back, right? Okay, so the content, which is actually where most of your grade is derived. Look, man, I'm assuming this is one of the first things you guys pointed out. This is super short, right? Even though the poem itself is short, which could lead to some issues, right? I'm gonna say, man, they get a lot of play out of that one line, right? Imagine in this shorter poem, if they do something similar with more or less all of the lines in the poem. I'm ballparking it, but there's like 12 or something, 10. Anyway, that's gonna start filling that guy out. So no reason not to. Even here in the intro, you're certainly allowed to talk about more than one line, right? Now, that said, what do they talk about regarding this line? I like a look of agony. They get really hung up on the oddity of that statement, and as almost a kind of a hook, even though technically explication doesn't really require that. I don't mind it, but the trouble is, I think they're so gobsmacked by that first line that they kind of just keep spinning around this notion that just, man, that's a weird thing to say, and it is, but they're beating it to death. It starts to feel like filler, even if that's unintentional. My question would be, Is there anything else to say about it, especially when it comes to thematic concerns in the poem? This is where maybe another line would help you out. Sometimes one line can guide your analysis for a little bit. Other times not. It depends. I like a look of agony. I'm going to go ahead and say the second line is pretty important. If you only quote, I like a look of agony, aren't you arguably misrepresenting the work? Doesn't Dickinson kind of sound crazy? Not to say she's much better with the second line, but at least like she gives a reason and you can kind of go, oh, that makes sense. I get, yeah. So you need to be mindful of that stuff. You want to work to not misrepresent the work. Absolutely, you don't want to do that. So let me see, anything else to say about this? Honestly, I'm trying not to regurgitate what I gave you guys yesterday, but that's part of why I picked this, because yesterday's class, we talked through these poems, right? So you could you look back at your notes, that you took. Anyway, I like a look of agony because I know it's true. What's more interesting to me, if I'm on a similar wavelength to the student, what is so interesting about that to the speaker? Like, could you argue, for instance, she's so interested in getting the truth, whatever you think she means by that, and that may come later in the paper, but she's so interested in getting that she will go to these links. She will watch people in agony, and she likes it. It means that much to her. Can I have like 2 minutes? 2 minutes. Anyway, where was I? That's a much more interesting conversation, and I'm gonna make the case you have more to say about it, and it's not a misrepresentation. Like, this is borderline by the end. So that would be my advice for this one. It's a first attempt. Whatever you came up with, I can't say this enough, rough drafts are called rough for a reason. I don't write great rough drafts. Nobody does. So again, what I really try to teach you guys, get a thing down, but what we always practice is revision. So work over what you have. If you gotta axe something because it's not working, you axe it, and then you go back with your better idea or whatever, and you make it better. That's kind of the goal. I don't remember the length of the paper off the top of my head. Again, I'm very fuzzy. I think it's like 750 words, so like, not that bad. Due date for all the homework assignments is on Blackboard. I also can't remember those off the top of my head. I should have written them down, but I got a lot going on. I am committed to being in tomorrow, but we'll just see. Anyway, I'm gonna go make dinner for that one, and I'll see you guys soon, hopefully. Later.